It was her first day at a new high school. A black girl joined the cheerleading team and instantly got mocked by the bullies. But what they didn't know, she wasn't just a cheerleader. Her dad was a Navy SEAL, and everything was about to change. To watch more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe our channel. It was her first day at Jefferson High, a school known for its prestige, competitive sports teams, and mostly white student body. She walked through the front gates with her shoulders straight and her head held high, not because she was trying to prove anything, but because that's how her father raised her, to carry herself with quiet strength. Her skin, a rich tone, of deep brown, stood out sharply in the sea of pale faces. Her braids were neatly done, and her uniform fit just right. She didn't smile much, but her eyes were calm, the kind of calm that unnerves people who are looking for weakness. As she stepped into the gymnasium for cheer practice, the buzz began immediately. Whispers trailed behind her like shadows. Some girls looked her up and down with curled lips and raised brows. Others turned to their friends, giggling behind their hands. One of the senior cheerleaders, blonde, tall, and obviously the unofficial leader of the group, leaned toward another and said loud enough for her to hear, "Did she even pass auditions? Or did they just feel bad for her?" Another chimed in with a mocking laugh, "Bet she can't even do a proper split." They all laughed, thinking they were clever. The coach, absorbed in her clipboard, didn't say a word. She heard it all, but chose silence, like she always did when things got uncomfortable. The girl didn't react, not a twitch, not a glance, not a frown. She placed her gym bag by the wall, pulled out her water bottle, and began stretching, quietly in the corner. Every movement was graceful, controlled, efficient. But the others didn't see it. They didn't notice the discipline in how she breathed, the deliberate pace of her stretches, or the way she scanned the room without turning her head, just like she'd been taught. She knew how to read people. She knew who felt threatened, and who just followed the crowd. And most of all, she knew not to give bullies the satisfaction of a reaction, because she had a secret, a powerful, life-shaping secret. Her father was a decorated Navy SEAL, and not just a SEAL, but one of the few black men in the history of the unit to lead a classified counterterrorism op overseas. Since she was 6 years old, he trained her in mental toughness, self-control, and combat readiness, not because he expected her to fight, but because he knew the world would try to break her spirit one day. He just didn't think it would start here, in a high school gym. But she was ready. These girls didn't scare her. Their words couldn't touch her. She'd been through drills that made grown men cry. She'd run 5 miles before breakfast, every day for the last 2 years. She could hold a plank longer than any of them could stand upright in heels. They thought they were better than her because of how they looked, how they sounded, and who their parents were. But they had no idea what kind of strength was standing silently in their midst, just watching, waiting, ready. Practice began under the harsh glare of fluorescent gym lights, the air thick with the scent of rubber soles, sweat, and cheap body. To spray. The polished wooden floor echoed with the synchronized stomps of girls performing routines that had been practiced for years, refined to an art. But for her, the space didn't feel like a place of teamwork or discipline. It felt like a battlefield, not because she feared failing the routine, but because every glance, every whisper, every giggle that wasn't hers was laced with something venomous. The energy in the gym shifted the moment she moved, as if the very sound of her footsteps was an invitation to mock her existence. She tried to focus, tried to keep her form tight, her posture perfect. Her toe touches were higher than most. Her splits were clean. Her arm motions cut the air like blades. But it didn't matter. Perfection wasn't what they wanted from her. They wanted her to stumble, so they could justify their cruelty. One by one, they found new ways to make her feel like she didn't belong. At first, it was the snide remarks just out of earshot, timed perfectly during water breaks or as the coach reviewed formations. "She looks like she's stomping grapes," one girl muttered. No rhythm at all, said another. But then, it escalated. During pyramid practice, when she was asked to be the middle base, the girl above her hesitated just long enough to throw the balance. The flyer collapsed backward, hitting the floor with a soft thud, and everyone turned to glare at her as if it were her fault. No one checked if she was okay. No one asked how she was holding up. Instead, the blonde captain rolled her eyes and said, "Maybe this is too advanced for her." The coach looked away, flipping a page on her clipboard, pretending she didn't hear. Later, during the floor routine, the girl next to her accidentally tripped her while moving into a jump. She caught herself, barely, with the grace of someone used to being knocked off balance, but the damage was done. The gym exploded in laughter. "Oops," the girl smirked, not even pretending it was accidental. "Better watch where you're going." The coach gave a half-hearted warning about being careful and moved on. And she just got up quietly, brushed off her knees, and took her place again. But the worst came during break time, when most girls huddled around their phones, reapplying lip gloss and scrolling through filtered selfies. She sat alone on the edge of the bleachers, tying her shoelace, when 3 of the girls walked over. Their leader, the same blonde who mocked her on day 1, leaned in close and whispered, "This isn't some ghetto dance team, girl. You don't get points for trying. You either slay or get out of the way." The other 2 giggled behind her. It wasn't just an insult, it was a message, a declaration that she wasn't wanted. Not here, not in their world, not on their team. She clenched her fists tightly, not because she was afraid, but because every muscle in her body was trained to respond to threat, to hold position, breathe, assess. Her dad had taught her this posture, the stillness before action, the restraint before eruption. She looked up at them. Not with anger, not with fear, but with an unsettling calm that made the blonde blink first. She didn't say a word, didn't flinch, didn't give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Because her father taught her something they would never understand, that silence is a weapon, and patience is strength. He used to say, "Anyone can punch. Few know when not to." So she sat there, silent and steady, letting their words fall flat in the space between them, letting their assumptions pile up like dry leaves in the wind, waiting to be burned by truth. She didn't need to defend herself. She didn't need to prove them wrong today. Because she knew, the way you know when a storm is coming, that truth always finds a way to rise, and when it did, none of them would be ready for the force behind it. The school buzzed with excitement as Parent Open Day arrived, a once-a-year event where Jefferson High put on its best face for the people funding its reputation, the doctors, the lawyers, the politicians, and entrepreneurs, all dressed in sleek suits and luxury watches, filling the halls with the scent of designer perfumes and stiff smiles. Students scrambled to appear presentable, teachers rehearsed their speeches, and the principal prepared her usual greeting about diversity and future leaders. But while most parents wore business casual and carried portfolios, he arrived differently. The moment he stepped into the building, everything stopped. Her father, 6'2", solid as stone, and wearing the full Navy SEAL dress uniform, entered the front doors with a calm stride that commanded attention without ever asking for it. His ribbons gleamed under the overhead lights. Every button was precise. His boots clicked sharply against the polished floor. His posture was perfect, not rigid, not stiff, but composed, like a lion walking into a room full of house cats. He didn't speak right away. He didn't need to. The weight of his presence filled the space. Students turned their heads first, some out of curiosity, others with nervous giggles. Then teachers paused mid-sentence, one even dropping her clipboard as she caught sight of him from the classroom window. One by one, the gym teachers, office staff, and security guards took notice. But in the cheer gym, where she stood quietly at the back of the squad, it was the coach who broke the silence first. "Who's the guy in uniform?" The girls turned toward the double doors and froze. Her dad stood just outside the gym entrance, hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the room with practiced calm. His gaze didn't wander nervously like most parents. He wasn't here to impress. He wasn't here to network or smile for photos. He was here with one mission, and everyone felt it, even if they didn't know what it was yet. She saw him, and smiled just barely, the first real smile she'd shown all week. The bullies saw him, and something shifted in their posture. Confusion, then discomfort. Then realization. He stepped inside, and the sound of his boots echoed like a countdown. He walked straight to the coach, extended a firm hand, and introduced himself. Chief Petty Officer Jackson, Navy SEAL, father of the young lady standing over there. The coach hesitated, shook his hand lightly, and muttered something about how impressive that was, but the tremble in her voice gave her away. She wasn't used to presence like his, presence that comes not from rank, but from a lifetime of facing danger most people couldn't imagine. Without waiting for an invitation, he turned to the squad. His voice was calm but commanding, the kind that silences rooms without raising in volume. "I heard some kids here think my daughter's weak," he said, scanning the faces in front of him. "Let's test that theory." The girls stiffened. One glanced at the exit. Another looked at the coach, who was suddenly pretending to check her clipboard again. Her daughter stood still, calm, just like he taught her. She didn't speak, didn't move, because she knew what was coming. He continued, "I've been given permission to lead a short training demo today. Think of it as a physical team-building exercise, optional, but strongly encouraged. No one dared to decline. What followed wasn't punishment. It wasn't cruelty. It was exposure. A test not of muscle but of mindset." He ordered them to the baseline of the gym floor. 10 push-ups. Now. The girls dropped, some giggling nervously. The first few push-ups were sloppy, scattered. "Again," he said. "Back straighter, chin up. This is basic form." Another set. Then burpees, then high knees. Then bear crawls across the gym and back. Within 10 minutes, the jokes stopped. The giggles disappeared. The sweat began to form. Within 20, the first complaint surfaced. "This is, really hard," one muttered, panting. Her dad didn't react. "This isn't fair," another said, wiping her forehead. Her dad turned and faced them squarely. "Life isn't fair. Neither is combat, neither is judgment, but you train anyway." They kept going. Push, crawl, stand, drop, repeat. Some fell behind. Others collapsed on the floor, clutching their sides or groaning in frustration. But not her. She moved like a machine, controlled, steady, precise. Her form was flawless. Her breath was measured. Every rep was clean. He watched her, not with surprise, but pride. This was what they didn't see. This was what they mocked, what they overlooked, what they assumed didn't exist behind her quiet confidence. And now it was undeniable. By the time the 25-minute mark hit, half the girls had dropped out. 2 sat against the wall, legs shaking. Another lay flat on the gym floor, staring at the ceiling. The squad captain, the blonde who mocked her, looked up, pale, exhausted, and said through gritted teeth, "How is she not tired?" Her father answered before she could. "She's been training with me since she was 6. She runs 5 miles before school. She does 200 push-ups every morning. She doesn't quit because someone whispers behind her back. She doesn't break because someone tries to trip her. She's built different, because I built her that way." The room was dead silent. Even the coach had stopped pretending to take notes. He looked at the captain, then at the others. "She didn't come here to prove anything to you," he said. "But I did." It began like no one expected. No dramatic announcement, no blaring music. Just him, Her father, standing at the center of the gym like an immovable mountain, his expression calm, his presence heavy. The girls who had mocked his daughter were lined up in neat rows, some with their arms folded, others exchanging side glances and rolling their eyes. They still hadn't grasped what was coming. Maybe they thought it was just a harmless demonstration. Maybe they thought her father would give a little speech, say something nice about teamwork and discipline, then leave. But the truth began the moment he gave the first command. "Down," he said, just that one word. And the girls obeyed, hesitantly dropping to the gym floor for push-ups. It started simple. 10 reps, nothing too intense. Some giggled, others whispered under their breath. The coach stood nearby, arms crossed, unsure whether to interfere. But then he spoke again. 10 more, slower, controlled. The tone in his voice made something shift in the room. The air tightened. This wasn't some performative parent visit. This was something else. The girls followed, but form started to slip. Arms shook, joints creaked, their grins faded fast. Still, he didn't yell. His voice stayed level, steady. Back straight. Breathe in your nose, out your mouth. No collapsing. Then came planks. 1 minute, then jumping squats. Then bear crawls across the gym and back. Within 15 minutes, the first wave of complaints began. "This is way too hard," one girl muttered under her breath. "I didn't sign up for boot camp," said another. But her father didn't acknowledge them. He only observed, moving like a shadow between them, correcting form without emotion, issuing commands without raising his voice. The exercises grew harder, lunges, mountain climbers, jumping jacks that pushed their coordination to the edge. The room started to smell of sweat and frustration. The rhythm of breathing turned sharp. Girls began dropping to their knees. "I can't breathe," one of the bullies gasped, collapsing on the mat. Others gave up silently, retreating to the wall, sitting down, heads lowered, arms limp. It was no longer about pride. It was about survival. And yet, in the center of it all, his daughter moved like a machine, measured, strong, precise. She matched every rep. Her push-ups were clean. Her squats were deep. Her endurance didn't falter. While others cried, she was calm. While others begged for rest, she stayed focused. Every motion was sharp, refined by years of discipline he had quietly built into her day after day, morning after morning. She had never needed to prove anything to anyone. But now they could all see the truth. She wasn't just strong, she was built for pressure. He watched her but didn't praise her. He didn't need to. The silence between them was louder than applause, and that silence grew louder as more girls quit. Within 30 minutes, half the cheer squad had collapsed into defeat. One leaned over a trash can. Another held her ribs and cried softly. Her mascara ran. Her lip gloss had faded. Gone were the perfect appearances and polished attitudes. What remained was raw, stripped down, exposed. Meanwhile, his daughter stood tall, still ready for more. That's when he finally spoke. "She's been training with me since she was 6. You thought she was soft? Big mistake." His voice didn't carry judgment, just truth. Cold, simple truth. He looked around at the exhausted faces. You thought silence meant weakness. You thought kindness meant vulnerability. You measured her by what she wore, how she looked, how quiet she was. But you didn't see the mornings she ran when the sun hadn't risen. You didn't see the nights she pushed through drills while others watched TV. You didn't see her when she was hurting and kept going anyway. She doesn't owe you explanation, but now you have clarity. The girls didn't respond. What could they say? Their pride had been left on the floor somewhere between round 2 and round 3 of the drills. Their assumptions had cracked beneath the weight of their own limits, and above all, their false sense of superiority had been replaced by something else entirely. Respect. Not the kind that's asked for, the kind that's earned. Her father gave a final nod to the coach who still hadn't moved, face pale, clipboard untouched. Then he turned to his daughter. No words were exchanged. Just a small glance, a knowing look between two people who had weathered storms no one else in that room would ever understand. And then he walked out. No grand exit. No parting words. Just quiet footsteps on the gym floor and the click of a door closing behind him. What he left behind wasn't fear. It wasn't trauma. It was understanding. A shift. A deep internal reckoning in every girl who had ever laughed at her, questioned her place, or whispered behind her back. They would never look at her the same way again, not because they were scared, but because they had seen what true strength looked like. She didn't change who she was. She didn't need to. The world simply caught up to the truth she'd been carrying all along.